I want to talk to you about something deeply important, something that I've come to realize and understand over the years. It's the concept of focusing on yourself, not others. Now you might be wondering, why should I focus on myself? Aren't I supposed to care about others, about my family, my friends, the people around me? And yes, of course, we should care about others, but I've learned that when we get so wrapped up in other people's lives, in their expectations, in what they think of us, we lose sight of who we truly are. You see, it's so easy to look outside of ourselves and judge, criticize, or even compare. The world is filled with noise, isn't it? Every time you turn on the TV or scroll through social media, it's a barrage of information. Everyone telling you how to live your life, what to wear, what to believe, what to think. But here's the thing. The most important voice is the one inside you. The voice that tells you who you truly are, what you desire, and what makes your heart come alive. There was a time in my life when I spent so much of my energy worrying about what others thought of me. I was consumed with trying to live up to their expectations, to make them happy, to fit in with their version of success. I wanted to be loved, appreciated, and accepted, and in that desire, I lost myself. Can you relate to that? I think so many of us can. We get so caught up in trying to please others that we forget to please ourselves. We forget that we are worthy of love and care just as we are, without needing to prove anything to anyone. When you focus too much on others, you start living their life, not your own. You begin to chase after things that aren't even your dreams, but someone else's. Their values, their goals, their desires, all start to feel like your own. And before you know it, you're living a life that feels like it's not even yours. Have you ever experienced that? You look around and you realize you're doing things to impress people, to be accepted by them, but inside, something doesn't feel right. It feels like you've lost touch with the person you once knew, the person you truly are. I've had those moments and it was painful. But through it all, I've learned something incredibly powerful. When you focus on yourself, when you listen to your heart and honor your own needs, something beautiful happens. You begin to find peace. You begin to live authentically, not for others, but for yourself. You stop being a puppet to other people's opinions and start becoming the creator of your own life. It's empowering, and it's the most freeing thing you can do for yourself. Now, focusing on yourself isn't about being selfish or ignoring others. It's not about shutting people out or abandoning your loved ones. No, it's about nurturing yourself so that you can show up for the world in a better, more aligned way. It's about filling your cup so that it overflows, so that you can give from a place of abundance, not from a place of emptiness. You cannot pour from an empty cup, my friend. And if you're constantly draining yourself for the sake of others, eventually there's nothing left to give. That's why it's so important to nurture your own well-being, your own dreams, your own desires. I remember a time when I was caught up in the cycle of pleasing others. It felt like I was constantly running, never stopping to take a breath, never pausing to check in with myself. It wasn't until I hit a wall, until I felt completely burnt out, that I realized I needed to change. I needed to stop looking outside and start looking inside. I needed to give myself the love, the care, and the attention I had been so freely giving to others. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever made, but it was also the most necessary. And from that moment forward, my life began to change in ways I never imagined. When I started focusing on myself, I learned to set boundaries. I learned that it's okay to say no, to protect my time, my energy, and my peace of mind. I realized that I didn't have to say yes to every request, to every favor, to every demand placed on me. I learned that my worth was not dependent on my ability to meet others' expectations. And that, my friend, was revolutionary. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I no longer felt like I was drowning in the needs of others. I could breathe again. I want you to understand that you are enough just as you are. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to live up to anyone's standards except your own. And once you accept that, once you truly understand that you are worthy of love and respect without having to earn it, everything changes. The relationships that truly matter will flourish, and the ones that were based on superficiality or people-pleasing will naturally fade away. And that's okay. Sometimes, letting go of what doesn't serve you is the best thing you can do for yourself. And so, I ask you now, what would it look like if you started focusing on yourself? What would your life look like if you put your own well-being, your own dreams, and your own happiness first? I promise you, it won't make you a selfish person. It will make you a more whole, more compassionate, and more loving person. And when you're in that space, when you are full and at peace with who you are, you'll find that you can give to others in a much more meaningful and authentic way. But before you can give to others, you need to learn how to give to yourself. You need to learn how to put yourself first without guilt or shame. You need to prioritize your health, your happiness, and your peace of mind. So I invite you to start today. Start small, but start. Take a moment to check in with yourself. Ask yourself, how am I doing? What do I need right now? And listen to the answer. Don't brush it off. Don't ignore it. You are worthy of being heard, even by yourself. I want you to take a deep breath and really let that sink in. You are worthy of being heard, especially by yourself. Often, we go through life ignoring our own needs, dismissing our feelings, thinking that we have to constantly take care of everyone else before ourselves. But what happens when you neglect yourself? What happens when you forget that you are just as deserving of love, care, and attention as anyone else? You end up feeling drained, overwhelmed, and disconnected. You lose sight of who you are and what you need. It's time to stop ignoring that little voice inside you. The voice that's always telling you when something doesn't feel right. The voice that nudges you to rest when you've been pushing too hard, to slow down when you're moving too fast. That voice is your inner guide, and it's telling you something important. You need to focus on yourself. We all do. We need to stop putting everyone else's needs before our own, because in doing so, we forget to take care of the most important person in our lives, ourselves. Now I know what you might be thinking. You might be telling yourself, but if I don't take care of others, who will? And I understand that. I've been there. The desire to help others is natural. We are social beings, and it feels good to make a difference in the lives of those we care about. But here's the truth. You cannot truly help others if you're running on empty. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So before you can give, you need to fill your own cup. You need to give to yourself first. This might sound selfish, but it's not. It's self-love. And self-love is not about indulging in selfish desires or ignoring the needs of others. It's about taking care of yourself so that you can show up for others in a healthy and sustainable way. It's about recognizing that you have value, that you deserve love and kindness, and that you are worthy of the same care that you so generously give to others. Let me tell you something that I've learned through my own journey. When you start focusing on yourself, it feels like a weight lifts off your shoulders. The constant pressure to please everyone, to meet everyone's expectations, begins to fade. You start realizing that you don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to meet unrealistic standards or be constantly on the go. You are enough just as you are. And it's so important to recognize that you are not responsible for anyone else's happiness. We often take on the burden of trying to make other people happy, thinking that if we can just do this or that, they will be content. But the truth is, their happiness is their responsibility, just as yours is yours. When you give too much of yourself to others, when you try to carry their burdens on your shoulders, you're not doing them any favors. You're doing yourself a disservice, and you're preventing them from learning how to take care of their own needs. So how do you begin focusing on yourself? How do you start this journey of self-love and self-care? The first step is awareness. It all starts with recognizing that you've been giving too much of yourself away, that you've been neglecting your own needs, and that it's time to make a change. It's about acknowledging that you are worthy of your own time and energy. Once you bring this awareness into your life, you can begin to shift your focus. The next step is to set boundaries. Setting boundaries doesn't mean pushing people away or becoming cold and distant. It means recognizing what you need, what you're willing to give, and what you're not willing to give. It means saying no when you need to and not feeling guilty about it. It means protecting your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. I know it can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to always saying yes. But trust me, setting boundaries is an act of love, both for yourself and for others. When you start saying no to things that drain you, you create space for the things that nourish you. You begin to prioritize activities and relationships that lift you up, that make you feel good about who you are. You start saying yes to things that support your well-being, that make you feel happy, healthy, and fulfilled. And that's where the magic happens. You stop living for others, and you start living for yourself. But focusing on yourself isn't just about setting boundaries or saying no. It's about making time for yourself. How often do you take time to just be with yourself? To rest, to reflect, to do something that brings you joy and peace? So many of us are constantly on the go, running from one task to the next, never stopping to breathe, never pausing to check in with ourselves. But rest and relaxation are essential to your well-being. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't keep giving without taking the time to refill. Make time for the things that make you feel whole. Whether it's a hobby, a walk in nature, reading a good book, or just sitting in silence, find what nourishes your soul and make it a priority. Self-care doesn't have to be extravagant. It doesn't have to be a full day at the spa or an expensive trip. Sometimes the simplest things, like a few quiet moments with a cup of tea or a few minutes of meditation, can make all the difference in how you feel. Another key aspect of focusing on yourself is forgiving yourself. We all make mistakes. We all have regrets, things we wish we had done differently. But beating yourself up over the past doesn't serve you. It only keeps you stuck in a cycle of guilt and shame. Instead, choose to forgive yourself. Recognize that you are human and that making mistakes is part of life. Be kind to yourself, just as you would be to a dear friend. Let go of the past and focus on the present moment. I've learned that when you start forgiving yourself, you free yourself from the chains of regret and self-criticism. You give yourself permission to move forward, to grow, and to be better. And when you're at peace with yourself, you'll find that it's much easier to be at peace with others. Now, as you begin to forgive yourself, there's something even deeper to consider. It's about understanding your worth, really internalizing the truth that you are worthy, not because of what you do or who you are to others, but because of who you are inherently. Too often we tie our worth to our accomplishments, our successes, or how much we can give to others. But you are worthy simply because you exist. Your value isn't dependent on meeting expectations or fulfilling roles for other people. It's innate, it's unconditional, and it's yours to claim. It took me years to understand this fully, and I want to share it with you because it has the power to transform your life. You are not defined by what you can do for others. You are not defined by your job, your relationships, your achievements, or even your failures. You are defined by the simple fact that you are here, alive, breathing, and capable of giving and receiving love. When you realize that, something inside you shifts. The need for approval from others fades away. The pressure to be someone you're not dissipates, and you finally feel free to be exactly who you are. And here's the most beautiful thing. When you start focusing on your own worth, your relationships with others start to change too. You begin to attract people who value you for who you are, not for what you can do for them. You stop settling for relationships that drain you, and you start building connections that are based on mutual respect, love, and understanding. Your friendships, your family relationships, your romantic partnerships, they all become healthier when you focus on yourself first, not because you're abandoning others, but because you're showing up as the best version of yourself, the one that is full, whole, and at peace. So when I say focus on yourself, I mean more than just physical care, like getting enough sleep or eating well, although those things matter too. It's about your emotional and spiritual health. It's about taking the time to check in with yourself, to explore your inner world, and to connect with your heart. How often do you do that? How often do you give yourself permission to sit in stillness, to be alone with your thoughts, and to really listen to what's going on inside? I know that sometimes it's hard to make space for yourself. Life is busy, and it often feels like there's always someone or something else that needs your attention. But I promise you, taking time for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. In fact, it's the most selfless thing you can do. When you take care of yourself, you are better equipped to take care of others. You are more patient, more present, more loving. But if you neglect yourself, if you don't honor your own needs, you end up running on fumes, and eventually you burn out. That's not good for anyone, least of all for you. And let's talk about comparison for a moment. Oh, how easy it is to compare ourselves to others. We scroll through social media and see the curated lives of people we admire, and suddenly we feel like we're falling short. We wonder, why don't I have what they have? Why aren't I where they are in life? But the truth is, comparison is a trap. It's an illusion that keeps you focused on others instead of on yourself. It makes you believe that your journey is less valuable, less important, or less successful than someone else's. But that's a lie. Your journey is unique, and it's perfect for you. It doesn't matter where someone else is in life or what they're achieving. What matters is where you are right now, and the progress you're making toward becoming the best version of yourself. So, I encourage you to stop comparing. Start celebrating your own progress, No matter how small it may seem, every step forward is a victory. Every time you choose yourself over the noise and distraction of the world, you are moving in the right direction. And that's what matters. Your path is your own, and it will unfold in its own time. The reality is, there's no destination here. Life is a journey, and it's not about reaching some perfect place where everything is figured out. It's about learning, growing, evolving, and becoming more and more aligned with who you truly are. When you focus on yourself, you begin to peel back the layers of conditioning, fear, and self-doubt that have been placed on you over the years. You begin to uncover the truth of who you are beneath all of the expectations and outside influences. And that truth is powerful, it's beautiful, and it's worth honoring. One of the most profound realizations I had in my own life was that the more I focused on myself, the more I understood that there is no perfect way to be. We live in a world that tells us that success looks a certain way, that it's about achieving specific things, looking a certain way, being a certain way. But when you focus on yourself, you learn that success is personal. It's not about meeting some external standard, but about aligning with your own truth and living in harmony with your values, your desires, and your purpose. And that, my dear friend, is the most fulfilling kind of success. Now, I want you to take a moment to think about what it would look like if you started making yourself a priority. How would your life change if you decided to give yourself permission to focus on your own well-being, to honor your needs, and to live authentically? What would it feel like if you released the need for validation from others and started living for yourself? It's not easy, I know. There are many distractions in life. People will pull on your energy, your time, your attention, and you will feel the pull to give to them. But remember, you cannot give from an empty cup. You need to fill yourself first, and when you do, everything else falls into place. So, I want to invite you to let go of perfection. You are worthy just as you are, flaws and all. And when you let go of this unrealistic standard, you create space for self-compassion. You create space to embrace yourself fully, just as you are, without needing to change, without needing to prove anything. This is when true healing and growth begin. When you let go of the need to be perfect, you allow yourself to be human, to make mistakes, to learn, and to grow in a way that feels authentic and aligned. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to feel lost or unsure. It's okay to stumble and fall. What matters is that you rise again with the understanding that every setback is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to get closer to the person you are meant to be. Life isn't about avoiding mistakes or never facing difficulties. It's about how you handle those challenges, how you learn from them, and how you continue to move forward. Now, as you start this journey of focusing on yourself, you might encounter some resistance. The voices inside your head might start to say things like, "You're being selfish. You should be helping others, not focusing on yourself. How can you take time for yourself when there are so many people who need you?" These voices are normal. They've likely been with you for a long time, but I want you to recognize that they are not the truth. They are simply old patterns that have been ingrained in you over time, and you have the power to change them. It's okay to prioritize your needs. It's okay to say no when something doesn't feel right. It's okay to take a step back and say, "I need to rest. I need to take care of myself right now." You don't have to apologize for taking care of yourself. In fact, you should be proud of it, because when you take care of yourself, you are in a better place to show up for others. You are a better friend, a better partner, a better parent, a better colleague, because you are in alignment with your own needs. And as you take this journey of focusing on yourself, you'll begin to notice something beautiful happening. You'll start to attract what you need. When you make space for yourself, when you start to honor your own needs, the universe has a way of meeting you halfway. You'll begin to attract people who respect your boundaries, who support your growth, who understand that you are not just here to serve them, but to live a fulfilling life of your own. The people who truly belong in your life will begin to show up, and the relationships that were never meant to be will naturally fade away. It's not always easy, I know. We live in a world that is constantly telling us to look outside of ourselves for answers. But the truth is, the answers are inside you. They always have been. And when you start focusing on yourself, when you start tuning into your own heart, you'll find that you have everything you need to live a meaningful, joyful, and fulfilling life. You are already whole. You are already enough. One of the most beautiful things about focusing on yourself is that it gives you the opportunity to reconnect with your purpose. So often we get caught up in the daily grind, in the rush of life, and we lose touch with what really matters. We forget why we started this journey in the first place. But when you focus on yourself, you create the space to rediscover what lights you up, what excites you, what brings you peace. You reconnect with your passions, with your dreams, with your unique gifts. And the more you focus on yourself, the more you will find that your life becomes aligned with your purpose. You will stop chasing after things that don't bring you joy, and you'll start moving toward the things that truly matter to you. You'll stop living for other people's expectations, and you'll start living for your own. Your purpose will become clearer, and you'll start taking steps toward it with confidence and excitement. The most powerful way to create a life you love is to focus on yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a way that honors who you are, what you need, and what you want. When you focus on yourself, you give yourself the permission to live authentically. You stop pretending to be someone you're not, and you start embracing who you really are. And that is the most beautiful gift you can give yourself. So, as we come to the end of this part of the journey, I want to ask you to take a moment and reflect. How does it feel to focus on yourself? To give yourself permission to live for you, to honor your needs, to love yourself deeply. It's not always going to be easy, and it's not always going to be comfortable, but it will be worth it. Because when you focus on yourself, you open the door to a life filled with peace, love, and fulfillment. Remember, you are enough. You are worthy of love, care, and attention. And you are the only one who can give that to yourself in the way that you truly need. So, take a deep breath and know that you are on the right path. The more you focus on yourself, the more you will see the beauty of life unfold in front of you. And that, my friend, is the greatest gift you can give to yourself.